verse 18 through 24. And this is the second piece. Well, we had the introduction. We're the second major portion going forward as Paul is expressing what the Lord has done and where the gospel that he proclaimed to them, where does that come from? And it comes from the Lord. And we also then see his work that the Lord did through him, knowing that Paul's not going forward and saying, putting himself up. The point is that there were people here in Galatia, in this church, that were giving a different gospel. And so he's saying, where did this gospel that I gave to you, where did it come from? And it came from Jesus, who gave it in a revelation to Paul. And there's facts, and this is what he's going to go through in today's reading, that this incredible blessing was proven and true by two of the pillars of the early church. And that early church, there were basically three pillars of the early church. You had Peter, the apostle, John, the apostle, and James. Those three, James, half-brother of Jesus. And two of them, after a little bit, he didn't need to, but he did talk to. And what he was sharing in the gospel is what they were sharing for those that had walked and been around Jesus. James, birth on. Peter, all of the ministry. Now we come here to verse 11. Now, after everything happened in Damascus, he went away to Arabia, possibly northern Syria, with how Arabia was called, but it could have been, Arabia was a large area. But there was a significant Jewish population in the Nabaean dynasty up there. Now, and then he returned again to Damascus after a time in Arabia. So you're getting a good bit of time that he's skipping over. Love to hear everything that happened in Arabia, but this is all we're told. Now, then, Damascus, after 3 years, I went up to Jerusalem to visit Cephas. That's Peter, the Apostle Peter, the rock, and remained with him 15 days. Now, I wasn't there in order to say, am I right? But boy, am I certain they talked about the faith, talked about Jesus and all of these things. And if there was an issue, I'm certain it would have come up. Now, he goes, he talks to Cephas, talks to Peter, but I saw none of the other apostles except James, the Lord's brother. So Peter, one of the three pillars, and James. James, the eldest of the four brothers, go to Mark 6:3, of the half brothers of Jesus. That's to whom we're looking at here. So you've got James, and James, probably the writer of the book of James, talking and sharing as well in the midst of all this. So you have Peter, the whole ministry of Christ, James, Jesus' own family. Now, Jesus obviously would have been older, but of those brothers that went forward. And what I am writing to you before God, I do not lie. In an oath format is what he's bringing forward here. So he brings us forward in an oath format. And bringing this forward, he's then saying, why does he have to bring this and say, I'm not lying? Because of what these other people are saying. They're bringing these up to the church and attacking Paul's integrity. So no, this is what it was given. And Peter and James. It is the gospel message. Then it went to the regions of Syria and Cilicia. And the capital, those two had been formed together as one province by the Romans. And the capital was Antioch, where Paul served. And Antioch, where the followers of the way were first called Christians at Antioch. And because of and or but, it's a day. I was still unknown in person to the churches of Judea that are in Christ. That would have been those that martyrdom with Stephen and then scattered on out. So they didn't know him personally by face because he had done Jerusalem and now was going to Damascus. They were only hearing it said. So the churches that were around there, the believers, he who used to persecute us is now preaching the faith he once tried to destroy. And Paul had just said, and I did try to destroy the faith. I was a violent man, is what he said. Now he's preaching the faith. And what's their reaction? Their reaction is they glorified God because of me. May that word that was given to Paul be what we individually and we as churches might hear. May God be glorified, no matter what our past, no matter what has happened, no matter our failings. May God be glorified in our life individually, and may God be glorified in our life together as God's people. And